They never asked for domestication. No collar was placed on a wolf that made it walk into a fire circle 10,000 years ago and stay there out of loyalty. No leash was needed. The cat came on its own terms, and it has never fully left those terms behind. This is the story of an animal that infiltrated human civilization without ever agreeing to serve it. A predator that talked its way into the house. Chapter 1: The Self-Domestication. Roughly 10,000 years ago. In the region now known as the Fertile Crescent, humans did something that would quietly reshape the animal kingdom. They started storing grain. Grain stores attract rodents. Rodents attract predators. And one predator in particular, a small, solitary wildcat known as Felis sylvestris libica, found something it had never encountered before: a concentrated, reliable food source that required almost no effort to exploit. Unlike dogs, which humans actively bred from wolves over generations, cats were never selected. They selected themselves. The boldest, most tolerant individuals moved closer to human settlements. The ones that could stomach proximity to people got the food. Natural selection did the rest. This is the part historians find almost uncomfortable to admit. Cats domesticated themselves for a job, and the job was pest control. Humans didn't invite them in. Humans simply stopped chasing them away. Genetic studies published in the past 2 decades trace nearly every domestic cat alive today back to this single wildcat subspecies from the Near East. Unlike dogs, which show dramatic skeletal divergence from wolves, the domestic cat skeleton is barely different from its wild ancestors. Even now, a house cat could survive, hunt, and breed in the wild with almost no adaptation required. They never fully signed the contract. They just moved in. Chapter 2: Worshipped, then burned, by 3000 BCE in ancient Egypt. The cat's utility had become reverence. They protected grain stores from vermin and, by extension, protected the nation's food supply. That protection curdled into worship. The goddess Bastet was depicted with a woman's body and a cat's head, a deity of protection, fertility, and the home. To kill a cat in Egypt, even by accident, could carry the penalty of death. Archaeologists have uncovered hundreds of thousands of mummified cats, some deliberately bred and killed young purely for the purpose of ritual offering. Reverence, it turns out, has never guaranteed mercy. That reverence did not survive the journey into medieval Europe. By the 13th century, the cat's association with independence, night activity, and crucially, its silence, made it a target of superstition. Pope Gregory IX's 1233 decree associating black cats with the devil helped ignite centuries of persecution. Cats were killed en masse across parts of Europe, often alongside accused witches, based on nothing more than fear of an animal that simply refused to be fully controlled. Historians have since speculated, not without controversy, that the resulting collapse in cat populations may have allowed rodent numbers to surge in some regions, worsening the spread of the Black Death in the 14th century. The animal humans once needed to survive, they had nearly eliminated out of superstition. The species survived anyway. It always has. Chapter 3: The Anatomy of a Predator. To understand why the cat endured through worship, through persecution, through 10,000 years of shifting human opinion, you have to understand what it actually is under the fur. A cat's spine contains up to 60 vertebrae, roughly 60% more than a human's, connected by elastic discs that allow a range of flexion no human spine could survive. This is what allows the mid-air twist known as the riding reflex. The reason a falling cat almost always lands on its feet. Its retractable claws stay sharp by never touching the ground during walking, sheathed until the exact moment of impact. Its whiskers, embedded 3 times deeper into the skin than ordinary hair, are wired directly to the nervous system, functioning as a spatial radar system precise enough to detect air pressure changes around solid objects, even in total darkness. A cat's hearing range extends up to 64,000 Hz, far beyond human range, and even beyond most dogs tuned specifically to detect the high-frequency squeaks of rodents. Every part of the animal, down to the architecture of its inner ear, was built by evolution for a single purpose: killing small things efficiently and surviving everything else. Even its eyes carry a reflective layer behind the retina, the tapetum lucidum bouncing light back through the photoreceptors a second time. It is why a cat's eyes glow in headlights. It is also why a cat can see in roughly 1/6 the light a human need. This is not a pet that evolved to please. It is an apex micropredator that evolved to survive alone, and simply chose, when it suited them, to survive near us instead. Chapter 4: The Myth of Independence. For decades, popular belief held that cats were indifferent to humans, tolerant at best, purely transactional at worst. Recent research complicates that picture considerably. A widely cited 2019 study from Oregon State University found that the majority of cats tested preferred human interaction over food, toys, and even scent stimuli when given the choice. The stereotype of the cold, purely self-interested cat does not hold up cleanly against the data. Cats also appear to recognize their owners' voices specifically. According to research out of the University of Tokyo, even while frequently choosing not to respond to them. A distinction between recognition and obedience that dog owners rarely have to make. The slow blink, long dismissed as mere sleepiness, has been documented as a genuine social signal between cats and humans, something closer to a smile than a yawn. The independence was never indifference. It was a predator's caution, softened, but never entirely dropped. Chapter 5: The Global Takeover. From that single point of origin in the Fertile Crescent, the domestic cat has gone on to become one of the most successful invasive species on Earth, carried deliberately onto trading ships to control rodent populations at sea, and inadvertently spreading with every port they touched. Today, estimates place the global population of domestic cats between 200 and 600 million, occupying nearly every inhabited continent. In several island ecosystems, Australia, New Zealand, parts of the Pacific, feral cat populations have become significant threats to native bird and small mammal species, a side effect of the very trait that made them useful in the first place. The same animal can exist almost simultaneously as a beloved household companion and an ecological disruptor, depending entirely on which side of a door it happens to be standing on. No species has managed quite that duality, domestic and wild, worshipped and feared, needed and blamed for this long, and with this little apparent effort. 10,000 years after the first wild cat wandered into a grain store, the terms of the arrangement have barely changed. Cats still choose their level of involvement. They still hunt, still stalk shadows across a living room floor as if it were open grassland, still watch the door as though something might come through it. Humans built cities, wrote laws, worshipped and persecuted, and eventually studied this animal in laboratories, and it never once needed any of it to survive. It simply decided, 10 millennia ago, that we were useful enough to tolerate. And it still is.